Hello everyone and welcome to PvP. This is Gumjabar and we're going to look at a series of games today. PvP games are pretty short, so I'm going to go through a couple of them and show off my new PvP style that's giving me a really nice win percentage. I'm just feel really safe doing this, and it's really good, so I'm just going to go through it. This first game is going to look at the original Gecko or Geico build. I'm going to just go with Geico, which is the defensive 3-gate. And this is the go-to build if you suspect your opponent is 4-gating. So that's why we're just going to quickly look at this. I have covered this game before, but we're not going to spend too much time on it. So we're going to ×4 through this opening bit. I will go through the opening in some amount of detail. So first of all, we're going to look at scouting. Scouting is super important in PvP, and this is really something that has increased my win percentage a whole lot. So we're going to look at how to spot a 4-gate and how to spot something that is not a 4-gate and what you do in each case. So first of all, we get in here. Obviously this looks like any build basically right now, unless it's like a 10-gate, but at this point this could be any build. Back home we're doing the same thing, like the screens look identical, production tabs are identical. And pretty much we're just making a zealot and then probes until the cybercore is done. That's going to be the case no matter what. So we're just going to go through this. Okay, so here we are. Notice Gecko has actually left his opponent's base because I believe that they were just practicing, but right now our probe could be in this base for at least, I would say, another 30 seconds. So we're going to take a look at what we can see, and I'm just going to pop this up. So at 4 minutes is about when we're leaving this base. What will we get to see in that time? Alright. Notice we're seeing Chrono Boost saved up to here and used on the Cybercore. There is no Chrono Boost on the Nexus. This is a pretty good tell for a 4-gate. Notice there's only a single gateway, and we made a Zealot first. That's a tell for a 4-gate. If there were two gateways, that's typically a 3-stalker rush, which is a tech build. And so we're not going to be seeing that. Notice, of course, 1 gas. This gas is not taken. And at this point, after we hit the 20... So we're already out of this base, but once we hit... Alright, I'll go back to 4 minutes here. Alright, so this is about when we're leaving this base. The stalker is on the way. If it were chrono boosted, it would be done very quickly. And a lot of people do chrono boost this stalker to get it out of the base. What we've seen is no gas. Our gas is actually going down. You can see, boom. So already, we're seeing no gas. We're seeing all the chrono boost used on the warp gate research. This looks exactly like a 4-gate. And even if it's not, our gas is going up before his. That is the most important part of this build. That's the most crucial part of PvP, in my opinion, not being later than him with your second gas. Because tech is very important. Now, if he had thrown down his second gas at, let's say, 18 or 20, then, and he was only on 1 gateway, he didn't have 2 gates for the triple stalker rush, in that case, he's not doing a build that's safe against 4-gate, and we can actually just 4-gate him and win. But we're not going to cover that eventuality, because I assume if you play Protoss, you know how to 4-gate. And that's sort of a judgment call. If you think that he's not being safe against 4-gate, you can do that. But in this case, what we're scouting is looking very much like a 4-gate. No chrono boost used on the Nexus. All chrono boost used on the Cybercore. 1 gateway for a very long time, no gas. It's pretty easy to spot. Now, a lot of players will pretend to do a 4-gate like this until you're out of their base and then take their second gas, but even if he does that, our gas is going to go down at about the same time. It's not a big deal. And of course now we do see 4 gateways. So let's go ahead and back up just a little bit to take a look at our build. At Geico's build, that is. But the build that we want to do ourselves when we do suspect 4 gate. I guess I'll just leave the time bar up so we can see what's going on. Alright, so we chrono boost Cybernetics core, make Zealot Stalker. Our build looks a lot like 4 gate as well at this time. We do have a little bit less chrono boost because we used it on the Nexus one time. But you actually don't even have to. You can chrono boost this Stalker and it'll still look just like a 4 gate. So, at this point, we are at 24 supply. We're cutting workers. We have a Zealot and a Stalker coming on. What we're going to do is Gateway, Assimilator, Pylon, Sentry, Gateway. GAPSG. Just sort of easy mnemonic to remember. GAPS, GAPS, and then G, Gateway. I don't know. I don't know how you remember that last part, but it's pretty easy. So we're going to see that Gateway. Going to see the Assimilator. There. And we're going to see a Pylon up by the front so we can reinforce very quickly. We don't necessarily want to be reinforcing back here. And Geico actually forgot that, but ideally you want this probe to come up here and make a Pylon. You can want to warp in right on your ramp. Now the Sentry starts, and we're going to make a Gateway next. And we're going to put guys in this gas. And now, let's speed through this a little more. As soon as this Sentry is done, this Gateway finishes, and we make a Stalker out of both gateways. Stalker, Stalker. And we're spending all our chrono boost on this warp gate, but we're going to have 1 fewer chrono boost than our opponent typically. Not necessarily, but the way he's doing the build now, we will. And at this point, our opponent should be warping in right now, just as we are. So we warp in Stalkers, he's warping in Zealots. We have 1 force field. We need to make use of that force field. It could have been better here. We actually could have trapped a few more. I would wait for him to run up this ramp first, but any unit you pick off is actually a huge advantage in PvP. That would be a mistake. It doesn't matter if he gets double pylons. It's not an issue. You just have more units. And we're going to look at a pretty easy hold here. And yeah, he can warp in up on top of the ramp. It's not important. We force field the Stalkers out. We just kite the Zealots and then kill them. And already, you know, we've held the 4 gate. So if we just go back very quickly, look at the Units tab. And our friendly build creator, Geico, is actually not even doing his build optimally, and it's still working. At this point, you can actually have 22 probes. So that's just to give you an idea of this build when you see a 4 gate. This is what we want to do. And yeah, we can see we have a Zealot, we have 6 Stalkers, we have a Sentry, we have Force Field that we can cut his army in half. We're in great shape. We have 2 gas, we're making Stalkers while he's warping in Zealots. Now the reason I'm showing this game, I actually have a game of mine where I hold off in Masters League 4 gate just like this. But of course that was played on the PTR and I can't access those replays right now, unfortunately. I would show that otherwise. And all the practice games that I have where I'm holding 4 gate, I didn't save the replays, so I'm just going to go with this game. And at this point we're just killing off his units, pushing out. And we kill some pylons and we're ahead, obviously. So the follow-up for this after we hold 4-gate, and we, like they're definitely 4-gating, we held it off. Now we throw down a Twilight Council. We have just enough money to do that. I don't know if Geico's going to do that this game, but that is the ideal follow-up. Any of his tech is going to be much later than ours. We already have 2 gas running. We're getting a bunch of stalkers. Blink is just a very natural follow-up. So yeah, here's the Twilight Council. This could have gone down much earlier, in fact. I would say after you beat his first push and you cut his army in half and kill a bunch of units, you can throw down this Twilight pretty fast. Typically, the 4-gater, once he realizes he's lost, will throw down this gas and start going for something. Often Blink. But ours is going to be much faster, so that's the follow-up in case of Blink. Yeah. That's the follow-up in case of 4-gate. We're going Blink after we defend it. The defense is pretty easy. Okay, we're back with our next game. This is going to be a game with myself. And in this game, we're going to look at what we're going to do when we scout our opponent teching. And again, we're going to be focusing on scouting, which is really important. And we're going to be focusing on our follow-up / deviation from that defensive 3-gate build that we just went through. You only want to go through that build in its entirety without putting down any tech, only with 3 gateways, when they are 4-gating, and you're pretty sure about that. So now, I'm scouting out my entire base after gateway. I always want to do this. You don't want to lose to any stupid cannon rush or proxy gates. And once again, the build looks pretty standard. And we're going to look at what I see, slowing it down, inside the opponent's base. So we get in here. Chrono Boost is saved up on the Nexus, but not being used on Warp Gate. We see gas being mined up here. So he's already on 2 gas. And we see 3 gateways. And I could have microed that that probe a lot better, but this stalker would have killed it anyway. So what we see here is certainly a tech build, but it's not a faster tech build than ours is. He's going 2 gas, 3 gate, and so are we. Not a big deal. He's actually doing a pretty similar build to mine, although he actually supply blocks himself and doesn't quite get it properly. But I mean, just looking at this build, I would think, okay, he's going 3 gates with 2 gas, not a very early 2nd gas, I think. And this build is probably safe versus 4-gate unless I'm really good at it, so I'm just going to tech myself. So back in my base, normally this sentry is coming out. A lot of the time I will actually just cancel this sentry. You don't need the sentry. Sentries are kind of bad, but and it saves you 100 gas that you can then use in a tech building. However, in this case I'm not going to do that. I'm going to skip the 2 stalkers. I'm just going to make my robo very quickly. Because I see my opponent teching, it means that I can cut corners on my own build. I don't have to be safe against 4-gate anymore. I don't have to warp in a whole bunch of stalkers and then throw down my tech because he's not 4-gating. And this lets me put down my tech faster. And as we can see on the production tab, our tech is pretty much at the same time. Now, why do I go robo here? I know there's tons of pros, namely Huck, who goes blink almost every game. At least he did in DreamHack and Home Story. He might be doing this robo thing more nowadays, but last I saw, he was going blink. And blink is really common. Why robo? The reason for the robo, well, there's a whole bunch of reasons, but the primary key that I want to instill in you is that the robo is safe. It's safe versus everything. It keeps us safe, it keeps us alive. It doesn't matter what the opponent is doing, we're not just going to lose because we went robo early on. So we're going to see that. So now I morph these gateways. Going to warp in some stalkers. And our opponent is doing the same thing. We actually have identical unit counts. And I have one more probe. Another thing to note that, in PvP, a lot of the time when you're one basing, you're going to cut probes at pretty early on. 4-gate cuts probes at 20. And if you make too many probes, or you continue to make probes while he's 4-gating, you can just die because you don't have enough money. When you spot your opponent taking a second gas, not chrono boosting warp gate, you can cut corners in that case as well. You can start chrono boosting your own probes to try and get a lead. That's something that you should definitely do. So, again, just to reiterate, based on our scouting, we see something that did not look like a 4-gate like we saw last game. This is decidedly tech build. So we're going to chrono boost probes, not make as many units, get our tech down very quickly, and we're going robo. We're going robo basically 100% of the time. So we're going to look at a bunch of reasons why that's good, but for right now, we can see that our opponent is going blink. Right after warp gate finishes, and especially because I know he isn't 4-gating, I'm going to be poking out with this stalker, and I'm going to be scouting him. This stalker is crucial. Right now, if we look at vision, all I know is he's on 2 gas, 3 gateways. Typically, that's a blink follow-up. Sometimes, he could be going for a Dark Templar. Or he might just be going for a 3-gate and then a robo. I don't know yet. He's doing either robo or council. He could even be doing phoenixes. This is close air positions. That's very possible. So, I'm just going to get in there with the stalker and see what I see. Okay, I see a bunch of stalkers. And I'm actually not going to micro this stalker at all. If you see more than, I would say, 3 stalkers, maybe 3 or 4, if you see any more than that, then he's most likely not going robo because he's going to have more zealots. He wants to save his gas. And he's definitely not going Dark Templar because, again, he wants to save his gas up for those. And he's going to have mostly zealots. So if I poke up this ramp and I see a lot of zealots, I'm going to be suspecting Dark Templar. And at this point, I would probably see an Immortal as well if he's trying to be safe, if he were going robo. If not, though, I mean, in either case, it doesn't really matter. If he's going robo, I don't have to worry about him attacking for quite a while. Robo does not give you much map control. And, of course, we're going robo, so that's kind of something to consider about our own build. But I see a bunch of stalkers, and I'm actually going to lose my scout, which is not ideal. Don't want to do that, but that's what happens. And I'm feeling like, okay, this is probably blink. And something else of note, because I knew he was teching, I went for this observer first. I want to be safe against Dark Templar. If I suspected blink earlier, I would probably just make this Immortal first. But in any case, we're not doing that. And after this robo, I'm actually throwing down the Twilight Council. When you put down the Twilight is a little bit more up in the air. It's just kind of by feel. But the general idea of the build is we're going for robo, and then we're going to put down our Twilight a little after that. And we will look at why a little later. For now, our opponent's doing a blink stalker timing, and we are making Immortals. There's our first Immortal, and here comes our second. As soon as you have 2 Immortals, I think you're basically safe against Stalkers. 2 Immortals is the magic number. With 1, he can blink in and snipe it and have a good chance of winning the game. But we're going for 2. It'll be close, but it'll get there. we have a couple of force fields. And he's going to blink in and try and snipe this Immortal, but I'm just going to micro it as well as I can. Here comes Immortal number 2. And we have mostly Zealots and Immortals. His Blink Stalkers can't really do much, and he just GG's. At this point, I'm researching Charge for my Zealots. And I'm going to transition into Archons using High Templar. That's my game plan. We're going to see that a little later. So general ideas, I scout, I see he's teching and not 4-gating, but I don't see a build that is so greedy, like 1-gate Twilight. That would be greedy. That would be a build I would 4-gate against. In this case, I see a fairly safe build that's teching. I'm going to cut corners from my build. I'm not going to make a bunch of units that I would ordinarily do. I'm going to Chrono Boost probes. I'm going to make a Robo. The Robo, as we can see, keeps me safe against a blink timing. After that blink timing, we're going to go for we're going to go for this Twilight Council. You can actually follow this up with your own blink. Just sit on 2 Immortals and get blink and then attack. You're going to have a huge edge. He can't run away because you can blink after him. He can't really attack you because you have an Immortals. And you're generally just pretty safe. You can also follow it up with Charge. Charge Zealots beat Blink Stalkers in straight-up fights. Charge Zealots are really good. So that is another follow-up. Alright, and we're back for our final game. We already looked at what we're doing when we scout 4-gate, and what we're doing when we scout tech, and we specifically scout blink. And we're going to see what is going to happen in this game. We're going to see a different tech route from our opponent, a different build. And once again, we're going to see the versatility of this Robo and then Twilight Council build. So I'm going to speed through the opening just a little bit until we get to the scouting. Scouting after Gateway, checking my base. This is just a safe thing to do. Probably should have scouted up here too, but whatever. Alright, so we're in the base. What do we see? I see no second gas. I see Chrono Boost not saved up that much. Actually, it is saved. Yeah. So far, his build looks like 4-gate. That's fine. That's just a safe thing to do. And notice, we're making our own build look like a 4-gate as well. So now I'm going to get as much info as I can. When your build looks like 4-gate, they have to play safer. They can't get greedy with tech, or else they'll die. And if they do, of course, you can just 4-gate. You just go through with it. But if they don't, if they do a safe tech, or if they 4-gate themselves, then you're pretty safe with your own. And now, still, I'm seeing what looks like a 4-gate. And there's the second gas. I see the second gas. The Stalker's about to finish. I'm getting out of here. And his second gas was no later than mine was. Ours are about the same time. And again, I'm throwing down this Robo immediately. I'm actually doing it before my 3rd gateway. I just want this Robo down as fast as possible. I see he's teching. I need to cut corners to get an edge. I'm going to keep making probes here instead of cutting them. So you might be wondering, what if he just gets second gas and then cancels it, or he doesn't mine from it, and he goes 4-gate anyway? And the answer is, well, that'll delay him a tiny bit. And, I mean, that's kind of tough. It's just sort of a tricky thing you have to try and keep scouting. I mean, nothing is 100% safe in StarCraft. You just need to rely on information. And this is, a good deduction, but it's not necessarily true. So just keep that in mind. And I am scouting around just for proxy pylons. Always a good thing to do. I do make this third gate after the Robo. If we were going faster Colossus, I probably wouldn't. You can only really support the 2 gates with Colossus production. But of course, in this case, we're not going Colossus. And I just want to point this out. I never go Colossus anymore. You don't need to. So we look at our opponent. He's actually going for a 1 gateway Robo. He's doing a pretty hardcore Colossus type build. So our Robo is done. I'm actually going to make the Immortal first. It's sort of... I'm not totally sure about which is better, Immortal first or Observer first. Lately I've been doing Immortal first, but either one is probably okay. So this gateway's done. I'm warping in a few units. I don't need that many. So Immortal and then Observer. Going 2 Immortals first, blind. That seems like a little too much of a commitment to me. It's really good if they're going Blink, but even if you go Immortal, Observer, Blink, Immortal, Observer, Immortal, you can hold Blink. And the Observer is just safe against DTs. So at this point, I'm putting down my Twilight. I haven't seen what he's doing yet. I haven't seen his tech, so I'm going to scout with this Stalker. You always want to do this. I actually could have started doing this a bit earlier. And I still don't know what he's doing. The Council will be useful no matter what he's doing, so I put it down anyway. And now we're just going to see what I look for. I'm going to poke up the ramp. Immortals. Boom. Instantly I know that he's going for fast Robo. I'm super safe. He can't really attack for a while. I'm going to make charge on my Twilight Council. And my Robo is basically done here. For now. I'll need it a little later. But because I know he's going Robo, I know that he does not have DTs anytime soon. He's not going for a lot of Stalkers, because he can't support that with his money if he's going for Colossus. And that just means that he can't really be very aggressive at the moment. I'm going to warp in a bunch of Stalkers. I'm going to go for my Templar Archives as soon as I have enough gas for it. And I'm just making researching charge. I just want to mention at this point that Charge Zealots, Immortals, and Archons, in a combination, fighting in a pretty open area, not like down a choke where you can get bottlenecked, is probably the strongest army in this game. Probably. An army with like 8 Colossus might beat that. It's hard to judge that. I haven't played enough long games with that many Colossi to tell. But in mid-game armies at least, that is, I believe, the strongest composition. So that is what we're going to do. He is in fact going for Colossus. And he is going to scout out a little bit. This Observer could be more active. I could be trying to kill his Observer, so, things to improve upon. But as soon as we do scout that Robo tech, I should be morphing this. You want a bunch of gateways with this composition because it's so lean. As soon as you scout this tech from him, you want to rush to Charge and Archons, and you want to attack in an open field. This is very important. I don't want to sit up here and wait for his Colossus to come and attack me. I've got to move down the ramp and I've got to engage properly. So, I don't need more than 1 Archon, although more obviously helps. But the key part of the army is the Charge Zealots. They're doing the most damage. Here we go with the engagement. He tries to force field. My Archon's going to walk right through him. Doesn't matter. Zealots are doing insane damage against Immortals, against Stalkers, and against Colossus. And now I'm just going to be reinforcing the battle. And I could have had another Archon here, but I lost that High Templar. Doesn't matter, though. I've got Stalkers and Immortals against Colossus that are naked. I can definitely just win that battle. He has to run. And I'm going to get it as his Observer. At this point, I expand. Some Robo players will expand as soon as they have one Colossus, which is quite good. We have to try and spot that and expand at the same time. I don't really want to let him expand faster. Obviously, because that puts us a little behind. But in this event, he's actually going for one base Colossus. And as soon as we hold that first push and we're ahead, we can actually just expand. Not a big deal. And at this point, I can actually go back to making Immortals. And just keep warping in Stalkers. I mean, Zealots, not Stalkers. Stalkers are terrible. Don't warp in Stalkers. You don't want Stalkers. You want Zealots. And now he's trying to get back in the game a little bit with this Warp Prism stuff, but notice my Observer that I did not need because I knew he wasn't going DTs. This Observer tells me he has not expanded and I'm going to win. Yeah, now there's this annoying shenanigans. And here comes his attack again. This looks pretty fearsome. Let's look at the unit counts. I have 11 Zealots, 2 Immortals, and an Archon, and 2 Stalkers. He has 2 Colossus, 6 Zealots, 4 Stalkers, and 3 Sentries, which are completely worthless and just a total waste of money. The Sentries will do nothing. They can Guardian Shield, which won't defend against melee attacks. Here comes the engagement. I want to target fire Stalkers with the Immortal. Once the Zealots chew through the Stalkers and he has nothing supporting his Colossi, he has to run. And he can't actually run. And now it's 2 base to 1 base. Not totally sure what that was about, but anyway. We can see I obviously have a commanding lead at this point in the game. So, to recap, because this game is essentially finished, I scout him going fast tech. Once again, I just cut corners and get that Robo out pretty fast. I use my Stalker to scout out what he's doing, and I see that it's Robotech, so I very quickly go for Charge and Archons. Notice how safe this whole build is. He's doing more damage here. It's not a big deal. We're doing the 3-gate, the defensive 3-gate as our opener, which is safe against 4-gate. And obviously it's safe against everything else early, like 2-gate and proxy stuff, because as long as you scout that, you can easily deviate into whatever you need to do. And you have a ton of scouting information. Now, once we deviate with our tech, we're going to scout him out as quickly as we can with our Stalker. And we're going to throw down our Robo immediately. Doesn't matter what he's doing. If he's going DTs, we get Observers. If he's going Blink, we get Immortals. And if he's going Robo, we see that he has no map control, and we just can go for Charge and Archons. And we'll have it well before he can actually kill us. What else? If he's going Stargate, we can just research Blink. If what else is there? I mean, here's the thing. The only thing that we're a bit weak against with this build is if he is going for a charge Zealot Archon rush himself. And typically we can actually just kill that. That loses to 4-gate. But if we can't, then we have to rush to Dark Templar. And that's what the Council will help us to do in that case. I'm also getting Blink eventually. I don't know if I need that, but I believe he has to transition to Stargate to kill this, or he has to go for a lot of Colossi. So, anyway, the focus of this is safe PvP, and at this point, we're just going to go kill him. What can the Robo player do to deal with this? It's not impossible. The Robo player has to make Sim City at his natural. He has to expand pretty fast. There's GG. So what I mean by this is after you have maybe one Colossus, and especially if you scout Charge Lord Archon, what my opponent needed to do here was make gateways at his natural to funnel in my Charge Zealots into a tiny choke point, and he needed good positioning with his Colossi, and it's very hard for me to attack. It's also very, very hard, if not impossible, for him to attack me. And if I see him doing this, I'm going to double expand, I think. He's going to take another base very immediately. Yeah. It's just really, really safe, as you can see. We have a plan for every eventuality. The Robo and then the Twilight Council gives us a ton of versatility. Doesn't set us behind at all. And our build is safe against everything early, everything mid-game, and everything late-game. So, that is the conclusion. This is how I play PvP. This is how you are safe in PvP. You don't need to take risks or make a big coin flip decision on your early tech and hope that you win. You don't need to go Colossus and hope that you go like you're ahead by one Colossus because your Robo was slightly faster. You don't have to go Blink and hope that your Blink was a little faster and your Micro is slightly better. All you have to do is go Robo, scout him, go Council, and then either get Blink or Charge, depending on scouting. That's basically it. So that's going to do it. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you learned a lot. And, yeah, bye-bye-bye.